Tuesday. I already know it. I have a feeling today is going to be a fantastic show. I just know it, gentlemen.
It sounds like you've already had a fantastic show.
No, I just know it.
We're just going along for the ride.
We've got a lot of good topics today.
Mike and Molly.
PICs in the house here.
Hey, listen, I'm always happy to see Molly on television. That's just my personal preference.
Oftentimes it's Mike and Molly and Stephen A.
Well, hey.
I go along for the ride.
Yeah. She's earned it. She's earned it. Give up.
Well, you've earned it too, I guess. How are you?
Oh, you can shake my hand today. You're feeling better today.
I'm not. I saw the pep in his step right away.
You shamed me yesterday for having the audacity to even think about being sick. So
I'm just saying,
even though I still am, I'm shaking hands.
It was just shocking. It's just shocking to see you whenever you're sick, because it's such a rarity. You're such a great health.
Hang on just a second. Now I'm okay.
All right.
Ready to go?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Guys, we have a real treat for you coming up a little later. These two are going to get into it, and it's not with words. You need to stay with us for the whole entire show for this. That's coming up later. Really excited. But we start with King James. LeBron James made news before the Cavs' 33-point win over the Nuggets when he unfollowed several Twitter accounts on Monday, including his own team, the Cleveland Cavaliers. Here, he was asked about it after the game.
It appears that you unfollowed the Cavs on Twitter today, and it's caused quite a stir. Why did you do that, or what would go into that?
Next question.
You've had 38 assists tonight. That's a season high. Is this something you can take forward to the next game?
I'm done.
I'm done. Unfollowed the Cavs.
I'm out of my mind.
Oh,
wow.
Skip.
Oh, Molly.
Big deal or no big deal?
Stephen A. Smith, here we go again. Obviously, LeBron James made this a very, very big deal because LeBron James never does anything that affects his professional life or his image that he hasn't carefully thought out. This is a very smart man who knew full well that he would create a national buzz, if not a firestorm, if on Twitter, where he has 28.9 million followers, he unfollowed the Cleveland Cavaliers he once left so he could take his talents to South Beach. And the irony here is that this unfollowing surely was prompted by what happened Saturday night in Miami. Where LeBron's Cavs were down by 33 points at one point in the fourth quarter, ended up losing by 21. Their second loss in Miami this year by double digits. First one was by 15 back in December. So here we had LeBron James, who can be very thin of skin. I think we both agree with that on occasion.
On occasion.
Yeah, on occasion. I think this was one of those occasions where he just didn't like the heat that he naturally took for losing to the Heat. I thought it was justifiable. Even you gave him a little bit of heat sitting right here yesterday. He didn't like it to the point that he unfollowed the Cavs simply to remind everyone out there that, hey, you're lucky to have me, Cleveland, and I still have the option to leave Cleveland again after this season if I so choose. That's my take. I think that LeBron James was being, once again, in my view, childish here. I think this was drama king stuff that is way beneath his dignity. And once again, I think this is exactly the kind of public behavior on LeBron's part that helps divide his team. It helps distract his team. It does not contribute to team unity that we all know has been a little shaky of late between him and Kyrie. And other tweets he has posted, cryptic tweets, have indicated that maybe all is not well between him and Kyrie, and this will not make it much better. So LeBron also unfollowed a bunch of media people, and this led one of LeBron's insiders to tell Cleveland.com, that had an excellent story on this, by the way, that, oh, well, this is actually just the start of LeBron's annual media lockdown, in which LeBron, for the playoffs, does not look or read or hear anything. He shuts out the world. The public world is shut out. And I would buy that, except that when LeBron over the last 4 years has gone into media lockdown, it obviously hasn't happened until the playoffs. playoffs started, and we're still a ways away from the playoffs. And during that time, he has never unfollowed a bunch of media people. He's never unfollowed the Cleveland Cavaliers. And if, in fact, that's what was happening here, Stephen A., when he was asked last night by Cleveland.com after a big game, he had a triple-double, they had a nice big win over Denver at home, he was asked almost apologetically by the Cleveland.com reporter, hey, I just need to ask about this, I know you don't love this, but LeBron could have just chuckled and said, hey, I've just gone into my annual media lockdown. He could have made a joke about it. He could have tossed it off. Instead, he clearly got mad at the question. He got so mad at the question that he was a little discombobulated over another very positive question that he was asked, as we just saw, and he couldn't even answer it to the point that he said, I'm out of my mind, and he abruptly ended said interview. So to me, LeBron wanted the attention of this. He got the attention. Maybe he got more attention than he had wished for. But I'm blaming all of this on LeBron James to start and finish. And again, this is nothing to me but childish behavior on his part.
Well, you could sit up there and you could call it childish, and you can point the finger at LeBron James. It would be nothing new because he's accustomed to that. I think that in this particular situation, things are getting to LeBron a little bit. I won't deny that. I think that's what I'm seeing. I haven't spoken to him about it. I haven't spoken to people close to him about it as of yet. I'm sure I will. But ultimately, in the end, again, we're talking about a guy that's averaging 25, 7, and 6.5 per season, shooting 50% from the field, although he's struggling from three-point range. They're 50 and 20 on the season. They're gearing for the #1 seed again in these playoffs. And question after question comes day after day after day. And you could sit there and make the argument that he's put it on himself, but at the same time, there's not as if other people are absent of culpability all up in here. Kyrie Irving is in the midst of a $90 million contract. Kevin Love just signed for $113 million. And somehow, some way, LeBron is the one that has to answer question after question after question. So I get where you're coming from in terms of he could have handled things better. But at the same time, you're human, and you get to a point where sometimes, some days, things just get on your damn nerves. And I think that's one of the situations here. Now, what I will say to you is this. Here's what I liked about it, more so than anything else. What I liked about what I saw, because all I can go by is what we saw, you know, during the post-game interviews and what have you, I hope LeBron's getting an attitude. Because here's where I have an attitude with LeBron. D-Wade is the kind of guy, don't matter, wonderful person. But when he steps on the court with you, he's a killer. Just like Kobe's a killer. D-Wade, some would say, is nicer off the court than Kobe is, or customarily was until Kobe was such, you know, Kobe's like close to Gandhi, the way he's been acting this year. He's such a nice guy this year. But that's complete antithesis to what he has been throughout his career. D-Wade is always D-Wade, and he's always a wonderful person. But when he gets on the court with you, he's going to come at you. Pat Riley is the head of the Miami Heat organization. To this man, LeBron James is the enemy. You left us. You deserted us. And when these guys step on the court against LeBron, particularly in Miami, they bring it. And to me, even though LeBron has the numbers, he doesn't bring it the way he's capable of bringing it. And so having lost to Miami the way that he did, I sincerely hope that LeBron has an attitude. I sincerely hope that last night was indicative of the days and weeks and months to come where this big chip, figuratively speaking, appears to be on his shoulders, and he has an attitude with everybody. Because LeBron is the target. It is literally to a point, as great of a year as Golden State is having. If LeBron goes to the finals again and he meets Golden State and loses to Golden State, he is going to be just as big, if not a bigger story in losing than a Golden State Warriors would be in winning. It's almost like people are salivating for this brother to fall. And I just think that in order for him to be successful, Skip, I think it's one of those situations. You might label it childish. I might label it necessary. I really, really believe that he needs to walk around having an attitude with a lot of people. I think a lot of people need to be on pins and needles when dealing with this brother, because I think that's what it's going to take for LeBron James to win, considering the challenges that he is up against with Golden State or potentially San Antonio or OKC or the Clippers, and then obviously with his own teammates who ebb and flow as it pertains to when they will and will not show up on any given night. So I don't have a problem with it at all, because I think that's the LeBron we need to see more of. The guy that's got an attitude, the guy that can be dismissive, the guy that it looks ticked off. I think we need to see more of that guy.
The key here is, I'm with you on that in the big picture. How do you express that attitude? Do you unfollow your own basketball team, your own franchise?
Listen, whatever it takes, maybe, just maybe, leaving people the impression that, you know what, personally, they're going to say it's a non-issue. They're going to tell you that there's nothing to it. It's much ado about nothing. LeBron ultimately may come back and say that was a silly, stupid, frivolous question, frivolous subject matter just to make headlines. The chances are, if I know him the way that I do, he's going to dismiss it as that. I am saying to you, I hope it's indicative of something more. I hope it's indicative of, look, the urgency is to win. The urgency is for you guys to step up. I hope that's the case.
How do you explain that he didn't dismiss it in the question he was asked last night with, it's not a big deal? Well, why didn't he make it frivolous at that point? He made it an even bigger deal with his non-answer of the question.
I have no explanation for that. I have no explanation for that because I haven't spoken to them yet. But I'm telling you that, again, I get where you're coming from, and it's valid. I'm not trying to label your argument invalid. I get where you're coming from. I'm simply saying that with all the stuff that this man is going through, and let's face reality, to some degree, one would argue he might have bitten off a little bit more than he could chew, because obviously in Miami, Pat Riley's running the organization, and there's a load that comes off your shoulders. My response to that is, last time I checked, I don't think David Griffin is doing a bad job as GM. Matter of fact, I think he's doing quite a good job. I would like to have seen him shore up that point guard spot, because you got to have a viable backup to a Kyrie Irving that can come in there and do some things.
No,
I thought it was Mo. I don't know.
That sounds like it's going to keep him out.
I don't know what the hell is going on there. But outside of that, I don't really have much of a problem with the job that David Griffin has done.
I mean, you've raved about Channing Frye's addition.
That addition has helped this team. And then not only that, the shift from Blatt to Tyronn Lue, you know, the coaching staff seems to be intact. You got a guy like Larry Drew, who was a head coach. You got my man Phil Handy, that needs to get more shine as a potential coach, you know, down the line, because of this job he does as an assistant, along with a few other guys. So I don't know. I think the other pieces are in there, but I think that the thing that needs to be said is that when it comes to LeBron made a promise, essentially, to Cleveland, barring any kind of catastrophe on the part of the Cavs, literally veering away from what they promised him they would do. And by all indications, they've been wonderful to him since he has been back. Here's the reality. I don't think LeBron is going anywhere before he delivers the Cavs a championship, unless disaster befalls the organization.
Okay, so wouldn't you consider it, given your statement that you just made, beneath LeBron's kingly dignity, if he is the king, to unfollow a team, maybe just because it posted a picture after the big loss Saturday night in Miami? If we could see the picture, I don't know if you saw this one. This is what the Cavs website or Twitter site posted. LeBron appears to be losing the basketball as they were losing the game. And again, they were down by 33 at one point in the fourth quarter. Is that the picture that set him off? And if so, isn't that beneath him? Does he really think the Cavaliers are trying to show him up on their own Twitter account?
That's a good point. But I would say this to you. It all depends on the motivation behind it. And with LeBron, there always is one. You know, I don't blame you for bringing up the fact that he didn't talk to the media after the game, and he was dismissive after they asked him a question about him, you know, eliminating the unfollowing, you know, the organization he plays for. The flip side to it, however, is if there is an underlying motivation, and with LeBron James there always is, then you know what?
Yep.
I'm going to trust his judgment and give him the benefit of the doubt because he has been to 5 consecutive NBA Finals.
Yep.
He kind of has an idea of what it takes to get to that elevated level. And he's LeBron in that regard. I'm not trying to give him a pass when I think he deserves, just like yesterday. I went on SportsCenter and I said, look, I'm tired of seeing him hugging, singing Kumbaya to the Miami Heat. Every time he rolls up into Miami, they are punching him in the face.
He's never won there since he left.
You need to handle your business against this team.
Yep.
And stop, because Pat Riley, you are no friend of his.
Yep.
And not only that, in the arena, they were chanting, you need Pat Riley.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, come on now. You got to step up and handle that. And I think that that was just me saying to him, look, man, put on your big boy pants and go about the business of annihilating the competition, because if anybody is capable of it, he is. And he needs to understand when he is in figurative warfare, which obviously I know he does because he knows it better than me because he's the one doing it. But in the end, it just comes across like the level of urgency is never present when he's in Miami. And then when you combine that with that photo you just showed, you just had shown, where he's losing the basketball in Miami or whatever, who knows with LeBron? It could have been something that served as a motivational tool or sending a message to the organization. Mind your manners. Watch yourself.
To me, that's what it speaks of, how tenuous his relationship is with an organization. I assume he and the owner still don't have much, if any,
no, they
of a
do not. And let me
relationship.
tell you this. People in his camp have never, nor will ever, get over that letter that Dan Gilbert wrote to him.
I wouldn't
either. He came back, neither would I. He came back because of his family. And, you know, folks, I mean, there are loved ones he loves very, very dearly, and he loves, you know, his home area, you know, because South Beach ain't for everybody. You know, but the point is that in the end, what it comes down to is that there's residue from what life was like prior to him departing for Miami. They'll never forget that either. That's what led to him leaving. And so anything like that, whether it's that photo or something else, anything like that could set him off. I don't know the answer to that question, but it's undoubtedly possible.
I thought he came back in spite of Dan Gilbert, right? Like
Absolutely.
He returned in
Absolutely.
spite. Like he just wanted to ignore him.
It damn sure wasn't for him.
It's about the city. It's not.
It wasn't for him.
Right.
I promise you that.
I want to add to the fact you said making a statement. He could have hit the mute button if he wanted to just ignore the noise rather than unfollow. So it's interesting that he chose to unfollow.
And he only unfollowed reporters who are connected to the Cavs. Our Chris Broussard, Dave McManaman of ESPN.com.
And kept some other media.
And some other national media's Wilbon, Rachel, he kept them.
You're trying to win a championship. You can't be distracted where every time you open your account, there's something that's talking. Because if you talk about the Cavs, you talk about LeBron. So if you're talking about LeBron, I mean, listen, you yourself talk about how you advise all of us not to read tweets. Okay? Well, Skip, this is no different. He ain't trying to read that stuff. He don't want to be subjected to it while he's pursuing the championship. Everybody's not like me. I don't mind cussing people out.
Okay,
I don't mind going off.
Everybody's not like that. Real quick.
You know?
But remember, you can choose during the playoffs to lock down, as in, you don't even open your account. Don't look at Twitter. Don't look at your phone. Don't read anything. You can shut the world out during the playoffs without unfollowing your team and all the media that covers your team, right?
I got you.
The selective factor is what became like a little
and it would take a long time. He follows, I forget what it is, 150 some people.
I get it,
He would have to carefully go through one after another. Do you? You go through?
No,
so
I shut my phone off all the time. I'll unfollow, I'll block
That's why you unfollowed me. I got it.
Please, I follow. I pay attention very closely to both of your accounts.
Is this a little discussion y'all need? You know, y'all want to? Y'all okay?
We're good.
You're okay. You're okay. You're still included.
Yeah, don't worry. All right. Yeah, don't worry. All right. No love lost with Peyton Manning? Maybe so. According to a report from WRTV in Indianapolis, Peyton Manning has turned down the chance to sign a one-day contract to retire with the Colts and will instead retire with the Broncos. Peyton Manning spent his first 14 seasons in the NFL, obviously with Indianapolis, before playing his final 4 seasons with the Broncos. Skip?
Yes?
You surprised by this?
No, I am not. Stephen A. Smith, I told you Friday, I believe Peyton Manning has little to zero use for the Colts owner, Jim Irsay, who, as we all know, and we've talked about many times on this show, eased Peyton Manning out the back door so that he could go forward with Andrew Luck, which I told you was a huge mistake because all Peyton Manning did was go to Denver and post 3 straight MVP caliber seasons. One of those he did win MVP. I thought he should have won 2 of them. And all he did was get to 2 Super Bowls, and obviously he won the last one. So Friday was the classic case of Peyton Manning wanting to have his cake and eat it too. Peyton has one thing in common with LeBron James. They both have PR genius about them. They both are brilliant when it comes to image making and building and preserving. So Peyton knew that he needed to return to the city that he wants to continue to be beloved in, Indianapolis, where that Lucas Oil Stadium is basically the house that he built, and he wanted to have the forum to tell Colts fans on national TV, because it was nationally broadcast, telecast, to say to those people, I love you, and I will always consider myself a Colt. Again, having his cake and eating it too. Because we all know, as I keep bringing up, Peyton recently has had 2 controversies hang over his head, and they still hang over his head, that he wants to go away. So he took another opportunity on a national platform to deliver an all-time great retirement speech. I watched it all. It was absolutely captivating and brilliant, but he always is. That's what he does best. But in the end, when it came time to choose which team are you going to enter the Hall of Fame as, you're belonging to this team or this team, oh, I'm a Bronco, because he wants nothing to do with Jim Irsay going forward. He does not want to be associated with him. He doesn't want him being part of his Hall of Fame induction ceremony in any way, shape, or form. I think Peyton had to swallow a lot of pride and a lot of animosity to stand up there with Jim Irsay last Friday in Indianapolis, to hug him and go along with having 18 retired in Indy and all those things, because he needed to do it PR-wise. That's it.
Well, Skip Bayless, you're right. I don't have any problem with Peyton Manning wanting to retire a Bronco as opposed to an Indianapolis Colt, considering what transpired. But I want the record to show emphatically and clearly that I don't agree with his feelings. I agree with his position because he just won a Super Bowl with the Denver Broncos, took them to 2 Super Bowls in 4 years. So I get that part. And retiring as a Denver Bronco, that's perfectly okay because you moved on. It's a new era, highly successful. The teammates went out there and won for him as well, and they got a lot of love and respect for him. And why disassociate yourself so quickly and so soon after just capturing a Super Bowl championship with the Denver Broncos? Fair enough. But I'm going to revisit our continuous debate, which will be never-ending, and we will both be resolute in our stances. The Indianapolis Colts did nothing wrong to Peyton Manning by wanting him to be gone. Peyton Manning was 36 years of age. Peyton Manning was coming off of 4 neck surgeries. They had the worst record in football. As a result, the #1 overall pick, and waiting for them was a guy who drew comparisons to the great John Elway. It was simply a question of 15 to 20 years here or 3 to 5 years here. We're going to go with the 15 to 20 years. Nobody said that Andrew Luck was better than Peyton Manning. A matter of fact, nobody sat up there and said, Peyton Manning's a scrub, he can't play. What they said was, even though his doctors cleared him, there was some trepidation and apprehension on the part of the Indianapolis Colts and their doctors as to whether or not he could fully recover from 4 neck surgeries. So understanding that, that's nothing to be insulted about. That's nothing for somebody to sit up there. Peyton Manning has no right to sit up there and say, they didn't respect me. Now, if you had a bad season and was completely healthy and then they threw you to the wolves after 15 to 16 illustrious years, that's entirely different. But I don't care how great you are. If you had 4 neck surgeries and there's questions as to whether or not you'll even be able to throw the football And that one hit could ultimately take you out. In a sport as violent as football, as much as we can lament the tendencies, the history of troubles with Mr. Jim Irsay and what have you, as it strictly pertains to that decision to move in a different direction with Andrew Luck as opposed to Peyton Manning, there was nothing for him to be insulted by or to have animosity about when the issue was his health.
Okay. You have the right to that opinion, as wrong as it might be. But the only opinion that matters here is Peyton Manning's opinion. And I'm pretty sure I'm right about this. Peyton Manning still holds ill will in his heart against this man for easing him out the back door when he had his doctors telling Irsay he's going to be just fine. Peyton has nothing but the deepest pride you'll ever encounter. Again, as many issues as I've had with Peyton in the postseason, he's all-time great. And he holds it against Irsay for betting against greatness. When greatness is telling him, I'm going to be just as good as I ever was. Next year and the next year, I'll give you 3 great years. He did. He was as great. He was even better than he ever was in his first 2 years in Denver. First 2 years.
Question to your point. I don't mean to interrupt you, but question to your point. Skip, isn't it possible that it's not that? That it was the words that Irsay used when he alluded to how Peyton only won us 1 Super Bowl. We should have won more than
all of the above.
I'm saying, but wait a minute. Yeah. That's an entirely different argument then. Because if you're saying all of that, oh, I stand corrected. You're telling me that for the sole reason that Irsay decided to go in a different direction because Peyton Manning was coming off of missing an entirely full season, combined with 4 neck surgeries. Yep. You're saying that and that alone, and I'm saying to you, no. Now, if you bring in the other stuff that was said about him, that was mimicked about him, that Irsay, that's different.
I'm sure all that adds up, but in the end, I remind you, our Chris Mortensen was reporting that very week that Peyton's doctors were telling the Colts he's going to be just fine.
I know.
Peyton was telling Irsay, I'm going to be just fine. I want to stay here. I love it here. I want to finish my career here, and he forced him out onto the street as a free agent. Remember, he just became a pure free agent, open to the best fit and highest bidder, and it happened to be John Elway.
Well, again, first of all, when it comes to Chris Mortensen, we know nobody knows Peyton Manning and that family better than Mort. And God bless Mort, who's got his own health battles right now. All the best. Always think about you, Mort. The thing is that I don't care who it is. If somebody's talking smack about you, that changes the dynamic. Fair enough. But I'm talking strictly about the decision. If Peyton Manning, if all that it's about is the fact that they decided to move in a different direction because of his health, he's wrong. He's wrong. He's wrong to have that kind of animosity if it's based purely on that. But if it's because of the stuff that Irsay said,
I don't know
that's all I'm saying.
To weight those things, but I'm sure they all factor.
But just for the purposes of this show, you and I are going back and forth only because you believe Peyton Manning, you should have had faith in him. Those 3 to 5 years mattered. And I'm saying to you, our argument is I'm picking the 15 to 20 over 3 to 5 all day. That's all I'm saying.
And I'm all about win now.
Right, and I'm about to marathon, and I can't believe that I'm the one saying this because you're the one who ran a marathon. I can promise you I will never run a marathon in my life, okay? But I am about the marathon, not the sprint, figuratively speaking, of course. You, in this particular instance, you're not like that. Okay?
I'm win now, and now, as in the next 4 years.
Yeah.
Can I ask one question, though? What do we think if Peyton stayed benched and Brock Osweiler continued to play? You think maybe then he'd want to retire with the Colts? If he didn't win the Super Bowl, I think that adds to wanting to retire with Denver.
Possibly, but I doubt it. I doubt it because, again, like I do think Skip is right when he says that Peyton Manning was more stung by Irsay letting him go than anything else.
That it wouldn't have mattered his success in Denver?
And I'm just saying that's wrong if that's all it's about. Now, if there's some hidden stuff with Irsay, that's different.
That's a very good question.
It's very good.
If he had stayed benched,
would he?
I'm going to assume he would still be trying to play again another year.
Okay.
Now, what hit the fan was the Tennessee scandal. So once that happened, I don't know if that precluded his ability to continue.
And just for your edification, Shannon Sharp has repeatedly said to me me, it was not just being let go. It was the repeated shots that Irsay took at him after his departure. That's different. And I'm not giving Irsay a pass on that at all, because that's just Bush League. But it was nothing wrong with him letting him go.
No, of course. So a little letter here. Dear Roger, Robert Kraft writing a letter to Roger Goodell. We're going to discuss that next and tell you what it was all about. Stay with us. First Take.
I personally wrote a letter to the commissioner responding to his comment that if any new facts came up, he would take them into consideration. And I personally believe that when the league made their decision, they did not factor in the ideal gas law. They admitted that publicly. They've had a full year of being able to observe Tom Brady play with all the rules of whatever the NFL was. They did their own testing. They have results, but for whatever reason, they haven't shared them with any of us.
That was Patriots owner Robert Kraft as the NFL owners meeting, saying he has asked the commissioner for the team's first-round draft pick back. The Pats lost that pick as part of their punishment for Deflategate. Oh, Skip, what do you make of this?
Stephen A. Smith, I don't believe that Robert Kraft's heart is really in trying to recoup the first-round draft pick that his New England Patriots clearly deserve to get back. I don't believe this is a genuine attempt on Robert Kraft's part to do anything but pull off the perfect PR play at the right time. He just wants to send a message to his fans to make them feel better about where his loyalty ultimately lies, and he wants them to believe it's with his football team and especially with his quarterback and not with the league. Me personally, I like Robert Kraft. You love Robert Kraft, as you often say on this show.
Yes, I do.
I still have not gotten over, and I fear I will never get over, the statement that Robert Kraft made at the league meetings, I believe in the Bay Area, back on May 19th, when he walked up to the microphone and he read a statement and did not take any questions. And that was the day that he announced that he was reluctantly going to back off and accept all the punishment that the commissioner wanted to dole out against his Patriots. Remember that day? And he basically said, I'm a league man, so I have to go along with the good of the whole instead of just fighting for my 1/32nd of this pie. I'm putting words in his mouth here, but that was the message that he was sending. I sat right here the following day, and I was outraged that Robert Kraft deserted his quarterback. Now, I believe from the start that his quarterback was innocent, but he left Tom Brady high and dry. He left Tom Brady twisting in the wind. He left Tom Brady looking even guiltier than he looked to much, if not most, of America, who had branded him at that point already a cheater who lied about it. And I think a lot of people still believe that's what Tom Brady is. And I just can't get over that because he sold out his quarterback, man. And I'm not sure that deep down Tom Brady has gotten over that. But Tom Brady isn't a league man. He's a team man. So he's still going to fight for his team as he continues to fight for his innocence in the Court of Appeals now, as we all know. There's no way that Robert Kraft is going to get the draft choice back, certainly not until the appeals court ruling comes down, and it could be toward, I don't know, June, July, who knows when it will come down. So there's no way he's going to get the draft pick back right now. He fully well knows that. So to me, this was more of the perfect PR play instead of a genuine effort to retrieve the draft choice.
I disagree with you. Number one, I think you're being disrespectful to the great Robert Kraft for assuming that he's going to say something just for PR purposes. He has the ultimate form of PR. His team wins. They've been to so many consecutive AFC championship games. They're perennial title contenders. They're 4-time Super Bowl champions. And oh, by the way, they have also been in the press for the wrong reasons. Spygate, Deflategate, and beyond. So I don't think PR is ultimately his objective, his agenda, his goal. And I think it's disrespectful to somebody of his stature to label it that way. I don't look at Robert Kraft that way. I revere this man. I have profound respect for him.
We hear that often.
That's right. And I'm never going to change that because I like the way he goes about handling his business. Now we dissect and get into what the impetus is behind all of this. Skip Bayless, Tom Brady thus far has won in the courts. It's not over. It's still ongoing. But the idea that the NFL is after Tom Brady because they want to make sure that the commissioner continues to have the power to wield the way that he wields, that's an entirely different argument, separate and apart from the New England Patriots. And so what Robert Kraft is saying is that if your eye is set in that direction, why are we a part of this? Why did we have to give up a first and a fourth rounder? Particularly when you said that the coach, you found nothing that it indicates that the coach, Bill Belichick, or his staff was involved in this in any way. Then ultimately what you're saying is this is about Tom Brady. And if this is about Tom Brady, what does it have to do with us? I find it to be a very salient point on the part of Robert Kraft. A matter of fact, so much so that I actually agree with them. Now, I don't believe that it'll happen, and I understand that the NFL's preoccupied with making sure that they maintain and hold on to a power that they collectively bargained to have, that the NFL Players Association for years have been unable to confiscate from them. But the flip side to it is if you're Robert Kraft, you want a justification for why is it that our team is suffering when clearly what you appear to be saying is that this is about Tom Brady and about things that we had no knowledge of, because if you're not holding anybody else culpable and you're letting it go, then that's a different argument, and I respect that. Now where it gets dicey, Skip, is if we get into why the league decided to confiscate that first and fourth round pick. Because what if they did so because they don't want to go after Bill Belichick, because Kraft didn't want them to go after Bill Belichick? Then that's where your argument will come into play and the game changes. If indeed Robert Kraft was willing to accept the penalty that he accepted from Roger Goodell to protect Bill Belichick, now we got a different kind of problem. Because if you remember, at the time this was going down, when I reported about the cell phone being destroyed and all of that other stuff, according to my sources, one of the things that I was also told, and I reported it right here on First Take, was that I had heard that if Bill Belichick, when Spygate went down, it was said to him that if you are involved or found to have been involved in any kind of thing that compromises the integrity of the game, you could face banishment. So if Robert Kraft indeed accepted the punishment in order to protect Bill Belichick, then your argument about him doing this just for PR purposes has weight. Because then he's just saying it just to look good in the eyes of the public. But if you don't believe that that's the case, and I don't believe that that's the case, then I think it's perfectly within his right to sit there and ask for those draft picks to be returned to him in light of the lack of evidence or the shaky evidence that the Wells investigation
just a quick point of order, because you said you reported that he destroyed his cell phone, and his attorneys in court, and Brady said well,
that his cell phone was gone. That his cell phone was gone. They changed his cell phone.
They're saying he just changed to a new cell phone. He didn't, quote-unquote, destroy it.
All right.
He discarded it. Just for the record.
I didn't use the word destroyed back then, but what I'm saying is, you are ridiculous.
It's still in court.
Let me tell you why you're ridiculous. Let me tell you why you're ridiculous. So in other words, if I erase everything from the cell phone and I put it in the trunk of my car, right? To you, well, that doesn't mean he destroyed it. He put it in the trunk of his car and erased all of it. You know what I'm saying? I'm just saying, you're being very literal on purpose. You're being very literal. No, you are. You are being literal on purpose. Stop it. You're being literal on purpose, and you know it.
And they scored with Judge Berman because they said he did not destroy his cell phone. Remember, it was in their report. It said, the Wells report said he destroyed his cell phone.
The information that was on the cell was no longer on the cell. That's what we're saying. We don't mean they took a hammer and come on, Skip. You know that's not what everybody's saying.
That in the media, though,
you're just trying to be ridiculous. Anything to protect Tom Brady. Anything to protect Tom Brady.
No. Him running over.
They had a headline in the Wells report. Tom Brady destroyed his cell phone. They used the word in the headline.
I'm just saying. I'm not debating that. I'm saying you know good and damn well what they mean by that. It's not like they took a hammer or put it by the Honda wheel of the car and ran over the daggone phone or something. You could just simply erase the stuff that's on the cell phone. That's all they're talking about
here. You're amending your report.
No, I'm just what are you talking about? Really? That's what you're doing? That's what you're doing? Semantics. Anything to get Tom Brady off. Anything. You're unbelievable. Unbelievable. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Remember, Bob Kraft was not breaking new ground with what he said yesterday about they didn't validate the ideal gas law that they used. They didn't, but through their research last year, you know, that they haven't released the research that they might have done last year. So he's saying that there was no validation. That's the Peter King argument that we talked about on this show a month ago. Am I right? And then the Boston Globe did it 3 or 4 days ago. They followed up on why hasn't the NFL done more to research this? Why haven't they validated their argument that they used against Tom Brady in Deflategate? Why didn't they approve the ideal gas law instead of watching it just float out there and be disapproved by so many other people? Okay, so Bob Kraft is just parroting what's already out there. He's not breaking new ground here.
Okay.
He's just jumping on a bandwagon that was already rolling at full speed. That's a pretty easy argument to make. Right?
You might say that, but what I'm saying to you, Skip, in the end, you're trying to dismiss his words as just something for PR consumption.
I am.
And I'm saying to you, I wouldn't necessarily do that unless his original willingness to absorb the penalty was to protect Bill Belichick, which is possible. I don't believe that that's why he was doing what he's doing. I think as the months have passed, as the season has passed, as the evidence still appears so questionable in their eyes, and the fight appears to be between the league and Tom Brady and the league's right to wield the power that it wields, I think it's perfectly within Robert Kraft's purview to ask, excuse me, so this isn't about us after all. Then why did you take our draft picks?
Yeah.
I don't see why you don't understand that.
Okay, I don't, because back on May 19th when he made the statement at the owners meeting, again, if you're saying he was trying to protect his coach at that moment, is that what you're suggesting?
Yeah.
I never suggested
I'm saying,
that.
I'm suggesting it because of his willingness to take the penalty, the 2 picks.
Okay, if he did in fact do that, then he chose his coach over his quarterback, because when he folded his tent, he made the quarterback look even guiltier.
But I told
Don't you understand?
But
he said, I give up.
But I said to you back then, if Bill Belichick, we're all willing to concede that Bill Belichick, and again, we don't know. We don't know what happened, so I don't want to come across as convicting Bill Belichick in the court of public opinion like that. I'm simply making the case that if you are a Hall of Fame coach and the face of the organization who does all of these things, it's not to say that Tom Brady is guilty. It is to say, however, sometimes you do eat certain things for the greater good. You do. You might sit there. It's perfectly plausible. Do I lose Tom Brady for 2 to 4 games, or do I lose Bill Belichick indefinitely?
Okay, well, you know how I feel about that. You're saying he chose his coach over his quarterback.
And I'm saying to you,
and that's wrong.
And I'm saying to you, well, you might say it's wrong.
I definitely think it's wrong.
But that's a pundit and a commentator, not an owner. Not an owner that has to make a call in the best interest of the entire organization.
From the start, I said on this show, I'm far more suspicious in Deflategate of the coach than I am of the quarterback.
Yes, that is correct. You did say that.
And I still am.
Wait a minute. You did say that. But the flip side, ladies and gentlemen, is this. When you are the owner and you're on that perch, I don't care what industry you're in. Sometimes the subordinates got to take hits to gloss over mistakes that may have been made by somebody in an authoritative position. That does happen.
At the expense of Tom Brady, essentially, to keep the coach, right?
At the expense of Tom Brady's legacy? That's what you're doing.
Wait a minute.
Keep the coach.
Wait a minute. Wait a minute. You're acting like somebody asked Tom Brady to admit guilt. No, Tom Brady was going to fight no matter what. If you know that, then it's a fight that you have to fight. But if you're trying to protect Bill Belichick, please understand that sometimes that might take precedent because he could be going. Period.
Okay, but remember, the owner admitted guilt effectively. When he read that statement, I reluctantly
He said he reluctantly because of what's in the best interest of the league, because he thought that the matter would be dropped and they could move forward. What happened is the NFL kept going. So Robert Kraft was of the mindset at the time that, look, let us address this to get this out of the news, because the NFL is in the news for all the wrong reasons. We can't have a perennial Super Bowl contender being perceived as people who are trying to skirt around the rules and cheat our way to Super Bowl titles. We don't need that to to be headlines because that's all the headlines were throughout the offseason.
And I have a lot
Remember,
of
soon after that, Kraft reversed field and said, I shouldn't have trusted the league.
Because he thought they would drop it.
Okay, but the quarterback was still going to have to pay a price with an admission of guilt that Tom Brady was not willing to do.
But if you knew that, Skip, Mr. Kraft knew that Tom Brady wasn't going to do that. He knew that Tom Brady wasn't going to come out and admit
defend
guilt.
him, then keep fighting.
But what I'm saying to you is this. At the point, you have to, I don't care how special Tom Brady is. He's not worth $1 billion. You got a multi-billion-dollar conglomerate we're talking about here. It was permeating the airwaves and the newswires and everything else. He's like, wait a minute.
Tom Brady is the conglomerate in New England.
You know what?
He is.
You know what? That's nonsense.
No, it's
That's
not nonsense.
As great as he's fantastic, he's great, but there is no one player that is anything in the NFL. If Tom Brady were not playing
dynasty,
let me ask you a question. I got it right here. I got it right here, Molly, and we'll end this.
Okay.
If Tom Brady wasn't playing this year, were you going to stop watching New England games?
Yeah.
That's a lie. You just lied. You just lied on national TV. You're lying on national TV. You were going to stop watching.
I root for the Patriots. The better question, would I keep rooting?
You almost made me want to walk off the table. You would not watch the Patriots game if Tom Brady wasn't playing. You would not watch football. You would stop watching football.
You watch all the games.
Just stop it. Don't lie like that.
I didn't lie.
You did lie. You would stop watching football if Tom Brady didn't play?
Well, I wouldn't watch him every Sunday the way I do now. I watch every snap.
Oh, my God. You're going to sit up there and say that with a straight face?
Yes.
Really?
I don't care.
You're
about
unbelievable.
I'm a Brady fan. I say it all the time.
You care
definitely
about
not a Belichick
football.
Fan.
Skip Bayless, you
okay, well, then I'd watch every game. I'll watch the Redskins.
That's all I'm saying. I'm trying to deny it.
Yeah.
That's all I was saying.
But here's my bottom line as we go to break right now. He hasn't cheated, according to what we found, right? So he should get the draft picks back.
Yeah.
Whether it's true, they want it or not.
No, wait a second. Brady just took a beating in appellate court, and he might lose, and he might have to.
But as of right now,
suspended.
he's still innocent.
A lot of people think that they're leaning towards siding back with the NFL, and he'll be suspended.
Here we go
games.
again.
I know.
Here we go again.
So they can't get the draft picks back.
Got it.
My issue with Glenn Big Dog Robinson was not that, okay, he didn't play well and he got $69 million or anything like that. It was that I saw this man march lockstep with what George Carl wanted to do because George Carl getting paid $7 million a year. But Randy Ayers becomes the head coach of the Philadelphia 76ers. He's on a 3-year deal, but he's only getting paid $1.5 million. If you know anything about the NBA, they'll fire you and get rid of that and just soak your contract and pay you off. You treated this man like trash, but you'll come and talk to reporters about how brothers need to facilitate brothers being hired, but you had one. And how'd you treat him?
That's really not the reason. That's the reason that he's trying to portray. But the real reason he defies me is because I got into his face. Right. And it almost got physical. And we know what the outcome would have been if things would have got physical. I probably would have ended up getting a big, healthy Ron Artest fine. On top of it, then he would have tried to sue me for 68, 67 out of my $68 million contract. So at the end of the day, it really wasn't worth it. But, I just want to say one more thing. I mean, I wouldn't want the brother to advise me for another 12 years. So, I mean, if you really want to, I mean, we can set something up and put it on TMZ Sports, and we can take it to the cage.
All right. So that was Glenn Robinson offering to take it to the cage here and responding to you, Stephen A. Smith. What's your reaction to that? We heard on TMZ Sports. Take them off.
I thought about this long and hard because the street in me wanted to react differently, with some of the things that he said. But I'm a grown man. I'm 48 years old. I'm in the position that I'm in. I'm not going to go there. The biggest reason I'm not going to go there, though, is not just because I'm a grown man, I'm a professional, but it's also because I'm the one that was wrong. Believe it or not, regardless of what Glenn Robinson had to say, it was my fault. Which is why this past Friday, on my radio show, Sirius XM, Mad Dog Sports Radio, the Stephen A. Smith Show, I went on my show at 2 o'clock Eastern Time, And I apologized for even bringing up his name. Because the reality is that he retired after 2005. He's been gone for 10 years, pretty irrelevant. And my name never came out of his mouth. It was wrong for me to answer that question by verbalizing his name.
When did you answer the question?
This was Wednesday, the town hall meeting with Karen Hunter. She was giving it was a town hall. It was a town hall in New York City, where I was the featured guest. She was interviewing me. Yep. And she asked about just my career and all of this other stuff, and then she asked me a question: is there, because you take controversial positions, or you're going to tell it like it is, and anybody ever approached you, come up to you, anybody you ever had that kind of animosity with? And initially I wouldn't say his name, but then I said Glenn Big Dog Robinson.
To the town hall.
To the town hall.
But you didn't say it on your radio show.
No, I did not.
Okay,
no, I did not. So once they put it out, I went on the air and I said, just because things are true does not mean they should always be spoken of.
When you say they put it out, it just
they just put it out. They sent the link out to tease the fact that town hall was going to be aired, which it was. So when I heard about what Big Dog Robinson had to say about me, I was like, well, you know what? I deserve that, because this man's been gone for years. He's never spoken about me. I shouldn't have said anything about him. I was wrong to do that. Now let me get to the big issue. I was wrong. It was my fault. I apologize for that, because I shouldn't have brought up his name. Having said all of that, I stand by every word that I said in terms of its facts. We don't like one another. We never have liked one another. We never will like one another. And there was a confrontation back in the day. Allow me to give you the details. Larry Brown decides to leave the Philadelphia 76ers and ultimately take the Detroit Pistons job. He leaves in May of 2003. He ultimately takes over the Pistons. They win the title the next year. Glenn Robinson, Randy Ayers is hired that June. Glenn Robinson arrives in Philadelphia in the offseason after his years in Milwaukee, where he never won a conference championship, never won an NBA championship. Matter of fact, the only time in his life he won an NBA championship is when he was riding the bench for the San Antonio Spurs, but that's neither here nor there. He comes to Philadelphia, and I will stand by this to my dying breath. I've never seen anybody more disrespectful to a head coach than I saw him act towards Randy Ayers. I'm reluctant to bring all of this up because Skip Bayless, Randy Ayers has moved beyond this. Randy Ayers doesn't want me talking about this. Billy King, who fired Randy Ayers after 52 games his first year, when he was 21 and 31, all right? Billy King doesn't enjoy this subject being brought up. Obviously, I'm cool with both. I know both of them. It was a tenuous situation for Billy King to be put in. I thought that Randy Ayers was unfairly fired, and to this day, I contend that Randy Ayers got fired because of the disrespect that Big Dog Robinson displayed towards him, ignoring him in huddles, ignoring plays that he was called, doing other things. One time he walked out of a game, Randy Ayers didn't even notice, but Big Dog Glenn Robinson bumped into him on purpose. The respect was so flagrant, I was ticked off. I'm a columnist for the Philadelphia Inquirer at the time, and it's my job to cover the team. And I watched and I saw what this dude did. And it was when he bumped into Randy Ayers that was the last straw for Billy King, who was the president of basketball operations, okay, who had hired Randy Ayers. It was at a game in East Rutherford, New Jersey, against the Nets. And when Billy King saw that, he said, enough's enough. I got to let go of Randy Ayers. And my point was, you constantly have brothers, at least back then when I was covering the team, talking about how, we got to look out for one another. You got a guy here, it should be some more coaches getting opportunities. But you marched in lockstep with George Karl, but then you turned around. And this is what you do to Randy Ayers. So I pointed all of that out on the air right here for ESPN. In the aftermath of that, there was an all-star weekend in Los Angeles at the Staples Center. Needless to say, Big Dog Robinson wasn't there. He wasn't invited. So then after that, the Philadelphia 76ers, immediately after All-Star Weekend, was on February 17th in Denver. I covered the team. I had to show up for the game. Big dog Glenn Robinson shows up. He confronts me. He saw what I said. He gets in my face. He's talking a whole bunch of stuff at the time. Came right at me. He's absolutely right. He kind of left out that I came right back. Okay? Nobody backed up, all right, because I was right. And I maintained that I'm right. Now I'm a grown man. I ain't getting in some MMA fight. I'm not getting into a fight with anybody. I'm not trying to engage in violence. The only level of violence I will ever engage in is if it's self-defense, because I ain't going to jail for anybody. Having said all of that, I still maintain I don't hold anything against him for what he said on TMZ. I deserve that because I never should have said his name out of my mouth. He's retired. He's been gone. Nobody's been thinking about him. I should not have answered that question. That's on me. But just like that's on me, the facts are for me. These matters are undeniable. The level of disrespect he showed towards Randy Ayers was so egregious, so unnecessary, so Bush League that every single criticism I gave him at that time, he deserved it. And I maintain that more than a decade later. I stand by every single damn word I said. It was factual. Eric Snow, Kenny Thomas, Samuel Dallenberg, Allen Iverson, Aaron McKee, the list goes on and on. They were all teammates. It was there. But I'm not going to engage in any fisticuffs. And if he thinks it's all right to brag about what he could do to me at 6'9", 250, you know, what he could do to me, you go right ahead. I'm not going to engage it. I'm not trying to incite violence or anything like that. I stand by what I said, and we do feel the way that we feel about one another. Of all the players that I've covered in the league, we have differences of opinion. He and I do have a level of disdain for one another. It will never change. But I still respect the fact that he was right to say what he said in terms of coming. I was wrong. I did that. That was my fault.
So
I instigated
my only question is, if you are quick to point out that you should not have started this, why do you feel a need to finish it now by reiterating all the old details?
Because I want to make sure, A, that when somebody asks me a question, if I'm going to answer it, I want to make sure people know that I'm not backtracking from what I said. I was being honest, number one. But number two, I want folks to know that he was absolutely right to respond to me because I should have never instigated it. It was my fault. I should have never done that.
Maybe you should have just let it lay.
But letting it lay doesn't acknowledge that I was wrong. It just lets it lay. I'm man enough, if you're going to sit up in this chair and we got to call people out for the things that they do wrong, when you do wrong, you need to do it yourself. And I wanted to come on national TV today to acknowledge to folks, like I did. This is not a product of his video on TMZ. Friday, I apologized on the radio show because I should have never said it, and I'm doing so again. I just wanted to validate where it came from so everybody can understand.
My 2 cents about Glenn Big Dog Robinson from a distance is he was never very respected around the league because he was never known as a player who played consistently hard for anybody in Milwaukee or Philly or San Antonio, wherever he went. So to me, I have not even thought about Glenn Big Dog Robinson for about 12 years, 10, 12 years. He hasn't even entered my mind. Obviously, I think about you every day of my life. And at this point, you are way, way, way bigger than Big Dog is.
Yes.
And so, to me, you're above all this. Like, you really don't need to defend yourself to the extent that you defend it.
But I'm not defending myself. I'm here acknowledging that I have no defense. I instigated this. And so that's what this is. All I'm doing is highlighting and giving folks the details about what transpired because I want folks to understand. I'm man enough to admit I'm wrong when I'm wrong. I should have never instigated anything by uttering his name out of my mouth. That was wrong on my part, and I'm willing to acknowledge it.
So I think we're enough said.
Exactly.
Yep.
Right?
The bygones be bygones. It's in the past there. We talked about the proposed rule yesterday that players should be ejected after 2 personal fouls. Well, USA Today Sports' Jarrett Bell took it a step further, saying this. Instead of a new rule, the league needs to empower the referees to merely enforce what's already in the rules. If they see the Beckham-Norman drama, go ahead and toss them. Let the referees use their discretion, which I'd expect would include going to both head coaches after initial incident and issuing a warning, and let the chips fall where they may. We welcome Ryan Clark to the show. Hello, Ryan.
Hi, how you doing?
How we doing?
Good to be here.
Do you agree with what Jarrett's saying here, that the refs should be more empowered?
Well, we talked about that in the competition committee meeting about, you know, why can't the refs have the power to kick guys out of the game? And they were like, and they said, yes, the referees do. But I also think referees don't want that pressure of taking away a major player from a team out of the game. And I spoke about it. You get 16 games, so it's not a lot of games in the season, and each game matters tremendously when you're talking about NFL football. And so for a referee to say, you know what, because I feel like what you're doing is in excess of what the rules allow, I want you out of the game. I think to the naked eye, though, we could see the Norman Odell Beckham thing had gone too far.
Yes.
That somebody at some point needed to step in. And we're talking about this rule like it would have changed a lot last year. Neither one of those guys would have been ejected if this rule was in place. Actually, Brian Arakpo is the only guy who would have been ejected from any game.
Only for arguing with the ref twice in a row and getting 2 quick flags.
And for me, that's not a reason to be out of the game. Like, that's not ugly like we saw with the Bengals and the Steelers, or like we saw with Josh Norman and Odell Beckham. So I think if you give the referees that power, that's okay. But which referees take advantage of it? Which referees feel like now they have the power to deal with players in a different way? I remember there was one judge, and he would always be right by the linebackers, and I couldn't see it. I'd ask him, I'd try to tap him, get him to move, or say, hey, Mr. Ref, can I get a different line? I'm running to the ball one time, and he tells me, don't touch me. And so I look at him like, well, what you mean, don't touch you? I said, I didn't run into you on purpose. It wasn't malicious or violent in any way. I said, I'm running to the football. The play is stopping. I grazed you. And so you think about a referee like that, giving that type of power and being empowered, not just giving the power because the rules say it, but being empowered by the league saying, we want you to use that power. How many can handle it? And then on the other side, how many will be willing to do it?
That's where my trepidation kicks in, Skip. And I don't want to rehash old wounds. I've done enough of that today. But if you remember the issue that I had with John Wooten and how we butted heads about those things, who I respect, by the way, and he keeps in touch with both of us, and I'm happy that he does. I have profound respect for that man. But because I come from a different generation, that doesn't mean we agree on everything. And just to enlighten our audience, the problem back then was that, you know, we both agreed that the N-word should be eradicated. The flip side is that he wanted players to be penalized for it. He did. And that was my issue.
And for a while they were.
That's right. And I raised holy hell about it because, number one, I'm thinking about the society that we live in, who by and large what made the word as iniquitous as it is. But then you have the right to turn around and penalize guys for it when they've switched it around to a point where they can mingle with it and use the word without it being offensive, and you get to police that. That bothered me. The relevancy to this conversation, why I bring that up, is because we're talking about things that are potentially at the discretion of an official. We understand that an official should have the license to exercise things based on their discretion, but their discretion must be pertaining to specific rules and regulations and whether they're violated or not. As opposed to, well, I like the way y'all communicating with one another. Oh, you hurt my feelings. Oh, it's too vague. It's too vague. And the more vague something is, the wider the borders are. And if you want to talk about guys losing their mind, Skip, losing their mind, It's when something is vague, it's not definitive, it's not concrete, and you get to subjectively punish me in a fashion where it can also lead to dollars being confiscated from my pocket. That's a difficult proposition. I get where Jared Bell is coming from. And I know he knows his history. You know how much we respect the work that he does. I know how much you respect it as well. And in theory, I get where he's coming from, because officials got to officiate the game, and you know, you got to police it, and they need to have more jurisdiction. I don't have a problem with what he's saying. But I'm saying to you, we need to be careful about the level of latitude we want to give officials in today's day and age. I got it. When there's so many different things to point to hold against. Not only that, Skip, what if an official sits up there and I talk to Skip in a certain way? Skip's perfectly fine. I talk to Mike Golick or Mike Greenberg in the same way. They find it offensive. Now it's subjectivity reigning supreme. And I'm sorry to get racial here, that really works for black folk. It just doesn't. And the black athlete, I got it. That would worry me. That would worry me.
Okay, but if you want latitude, if you want hazy guidelines, I'll show you the NBA with their officiating. I'll show you MLB with umpires. It's as hazy as it can get.
MLB's the worst. MLB's
a lot of personal feelings get involved.
82 games and 162 games.
I am with you on this. But in the end, I am with Jarrett Bell's premise here that at least the head referee, or whatever we call him, the head linesman or whatever he is, but the head guy doesn't have enough authority, or, to your point, doesn't believe he can exercise enough authority to put out a fire like the one that started between Odell and Josh Norman, where clearly neither coach wanted to put the fire out. They're both a little iffy about, you know, because the game, it's high stakes. It's you know this as well as I do. But in the end, you need a head referee to feel like he's empowered to the point where all he has to do is pull them both aside after one of those piles and say, both of you, you've just been warned. One more time, and you're both gone. You are both gone, because both should have been thrown out of that game to me. Now, again, he might have to make a tough call. Maybe Odell initiated most of it. Maybe he has to be gone only. That's a tough call. But I think that these referees need to police the game a little better than they're capable, that they think they're capable of policing.
Let me say this before Ryan gets back in here. Skip, I agree with you, but here's my problem with what you're explaining. You're talking about things that are finite. When you bring up Odell Beckham Jr., Josh Norman, well, we saw that.
Yeah. Glaring.
We're good with that. We're good with that.
It's an eye test.
We're good with that. But what Jared Bell is alluding to and what you're alluding to is things that may not be seen. And now we're at the mercy of the subjectivity of the official. And when you're talking about a sport as violent as football, with 16 games, Skip, that's it, 16, not 82, 6 or 162 like Major League Baseball, 16 games. You're talking about it costing guys big time. Skip, I'm not comfortable with that.
Yeah, you know what, too, though? You cost the individual guy big time, but you cost the team. You cost the other players. You know, when you're talking about making the playoffs in the NFL, guys always talk about, let's get that extra check. Let's get that extra money, which is why those games matter so much during the season. So if you are playing on the field, and obviously this guy would probably never be kicked out, but you take away a Troy Polamalu, or something happens and you take away a Von Miller from a defense, you're not only making that player hurt, you're hurting the rest of the team. And so to give the referees that type of control does make sense, like you said, in premise, in what he's suggesting. But to actually put it in place with exactly what Stephen A. said, without guidelines, without saying it has to be these things, or these things need to take place, or this is how it has to look or feel. Because at least by that, you're telling a player, these are the reasons he can kick you out. These are the actions that will get you a warning. At least if you have that, now we all know what to go on.
This is coming down the pike fast. We're going to have a rule that's going to be relegated to conduct or behavior, in which you get the effect, as Adam said on SportsCenter, you'd get a yellow card. You get one, and then if you get a red card, you're out of the game on conduct penalties, okay? If you do argue too hard with the referee, that would constitute a yellow card. And if you do it again, as Arakpo did, and again, I don't know the circumstances of what got him thrown out, okay? Well, here
we gotta go, but Skip, argue too hard
in football.
Really?
Language?
Like, come on, man. But come on, Skip. These guys out down there putting their lives on the line. It's warfare out there. People getting their heads knocked off.
How many times have you actually heard something that was said on a football field?
And by the way,
watching the game.
And by the way, Skip, did anybody ever think about this? Maybe if you didn't have mics on the field, you wouldn't be so concerned. Think about that.
Ryan just said, I can't really hear anything specifically.
I'm just saying.
You know, basketball, we've had guys get fined because you can see it, you can read their lips. It's not the same thing.
Yeah. And again, as you mentioned, Ryan, no player in 2015 amassed more than 2 unsportsmanlike conduct or taunting penalties for the season.
The NBA, man. I mean,
I'm talking about NFL. I'm speaking to the NFL. Out on the football field, away from the fans. Okay, we can't hear it on TV unless you got guys mics. I mean, come on.
Yeah, but if you unleash a stream of profanity right in a ref's face, you don't think you should be thrown out of the game? Man.
Actually, no.
All right, we got to go, guys. But we're going to stay with the association. Ryan, thank you so much. So after that big matchup, the Warriors sneak by the T-Wolves last night in Minnesota, but the Spurs fall victim to Linsanity. Throwback. Hey. Sorry, Skip. How do the guys feel about it? Find out next.
How are you? No! How about a big no? You okay if I go now? Washed up again and again and again. Find me! This ain't over, obviously.
Lean the other way for Charlotte. Oh, good looking shot there from Patty. Just couldn't get it to fall. And then he make that error. Charlotte's first lead since 2-0. That just comes down to communication.
Curry. And that's shocking. Curry missing the 3.
Stephen, as I said, 4 of 12, 1 of 5.
All right, so after that big primetime matchup Saturday night, the Warriors barely get past the T-Wolves, and Skip Spurs fall victim to the Hornets and a little Linsanity. Skip, what's your reaction to last night's result for both those Western Conference teams?
Stephen A. Smith, you can call Ernestine and ask her if I didn't tell her before the Spurs game, I think they will lose this game, because little did most people know that the Charlotte Hornets, since February 1st, are 16-5. They're now 17th. Third best in the NBA. Yeah. Wow, really? Who knew?
Steve Clifford is doing a hell of a job, and Michael Jordan, having Cho and Clifford there, is doing a damn good job.
You got it. But after my Spurs won the first quarter 28-7, that's right, I said 7, and after they scored the first basket of the second quarter to go up 30-7, and Steve Clifford said that's enough, timeout 30 seconds into the second quarter, I happened to speak to Ernestine, who said, well, I guess you were wrong about them losing this game. And I said, well, I guess I was. And no, I was not. And I must say, it was basically shameful what happened to my Spurs from that moment on. But what happened in the fourth quarter was 2012 Memorial, Madison Square Garden, Linsanity. Because I got to tell you, as poorly as my Spurs shot the ball in the fourth quarter, and they missed all 7 of their 3-point shots, Jeremy Lin was unguardable in the fourth quarter. They tried Kawhi on him, they tried Danny Green on him, they tried Tony Parker on him, and nobody could stop Linsanity. In the fourth quarter, he makes 5 out of 7 shots, all 3 of his threes, gets 5 rebounds and scores 15 points. Well, that's pretty hard to overcome when you've dogged it, so to speak, for the last 2.5 quarters. You can't just hit the switch and flip it back on because Linsanity said no. Meanwhile, I'm watching the Golden State game simultaneously, and it finished about an hour. It is about an hour later, obviously. And Golden State was in big trouble on the road at Minnesota, trying to come off the hangover of losing in San Antonio against a very talented young team that was shooting the heck out of the basketball, with Steph Curry once again cold from 3. Clay made all 5 of his 3-point shots, but I think he missed all 9 of his shots from the field, his 2-point shots. So they were struggling to shoot the basketball, and I got to give it up to Golden State, because down the stretch they made the kind of plays a championship team makes to save a game like that on the road that could contribute, obviously, to their home field home court advantage throughout the playoffs, because they're only 3 up on the Spurs going into the night, and now I have officially waved the white flag on home court advantage, because 4 down with this many to go, I don't think the Spurs are going to catch them.
Well, I don't think they're going to catch them either, and I think that's why Steve Kerr was very concerned. I look at the Minnesota Timberwolves. I get excited. I know their record is only 22-48, but I get excited when you think about Karl Anthony Towns, who is legit, the real deal, the eminent rookie of the year, as far as I'm concerned. There is nothing to talk about. If Zach LaVine can learn to play the point guard, because even though Rubio had 20 and 11 last night, he can't guard me. So the bottom line is you need somebody like a Zach LaVine, who's a slam dunk champion, but also very athletic and shoot the basketball. If he learns how to play the point, then you could have him in there on a regular basis as your point. And obviously you look at him with Andrew Wiggins, and the future is just bright. So I really like what I'm seeing in Minnesota right now. They're just young. They have no experience whatsoever. They don't know how to close. That's what it comes down to. Golden State somehow, some way is going to come out. I'm looking at Steph Curry, 3 of 21 shooting over the last 2 games. That's just an aberration. I'm not from 3. That's just an aberration. The Spurs, Skip, when I was in San Antonio this past Saturday, regardless of how effective that they played, there were spots where I looked at a team that just felt old to me. And I think that, you know, when come playoff time and you don't have to worry about back-to-backs, and obviously you can amp it up a little bit, I think they'll be more formidable then. There's no question about that. But if you're a team that wants to run, wants to pressure them, wants to make them run, I think that you have a chance, and I think that you have an edge on any given night with the Spurs, because when it comes to your legs, you never know when they're going to leave you. You never know when it'll be gone. And I think that's what the situation
Remember,
is.
Kawhi and LaMarcus are not old.
I know
right?
that. They're not, but you need more
Patty
than that.
Mills, not old.
You need
my
more than
fear about this team, the Spurs, they have to make 3-point shots. They just don't make enough of them.
That's fair.
They used to be the best 3-point shooting
And
team.
Danny Green has been inconsistent, to say the least. Well, he was 0 for 7 yesterday, but 0 for 5 for 3-point range. But he needs to get more consistent, because he would help the Spurs a lot if he made some of those shots.
All right, coming up.
First Take is brought to you by Cheerios and Firestone Complete Auto Care, celebrating 90 years of keeping cars running newer, longer.
NBA Wednesday, presented by State Farm, a great doubleheader here. We begin in the East, the Knicks versus the Bulls. That's at 8 Eastern. Then Clippers, Warriors, 10:30 Eastern for your nightcap. It's time, the moment you've been waiting for, courtesy of EA Sports and the new mixed martial arts video game UFC 2 in stores now. The big debut, Skip versus Stephen A. in the octagon. It's the first heavyweight matchup. The undefeated champs set to face off. Stephen A. getting his gloves ready. Skip all pumped up, warming up there, getting loose. Now, the stars are going to meet in the middle of the ring. Skip goes to tap gloves. Stephen A. Bro, cold shoulder. That was cold. Skip taking him down, but Stephen A. with the great flip move here, able to get out of it. Then Stephen A. goes for the arm bar, but Skip sneaks out to keep the match alive. They get back on their feet. Some vicious combination of punches here, but Skip comes right back. Oh, with the punch and the leg kick. Nice combo, Skip. This is way too much fun for me. Pretty even match. Good ground game, guys. And when you got on your feet, too, you landed some nice punches there.
It had my hairline right. It had my hairline about right, yeah.
You know, this is my pride talking. I'm going to have to take those EA artists to the gym with me, because what happened to my biceps?
Oh,
I lost my pecs. I lost everything.
I thought you looked pretty good there.
Really? I didn't.
Great grappling skill.
I thought they skinnied me up.
It made me look better than I look. I will say that. It did.
Well, that's a good thing.
It did.
Yeah.
So one guy's into it, one's not?
Well, you know, I'm not.
That's cool.
I love watching MMA, but I'm more of a boxer.
No, you were good. I think
boxing for years.
You might have dissed him like that if you were fired up. I think that was my favorite part, the cold shoulder. Skip tries to be nice, put his hand out. You just diss him.
No, that's not me. I'm very classy. I'm very classy. I would always have touched gloves. I would have never disrespected him like that. No.
That was out of character?
No, that's out of character.
Oh, my God.
But they didn't talk to me before they did this. So
There's a nice reach you had, too. Nice right hand.
You would have touched gloves. I would agree.
That's right.
We want to know what you guys think at home. Let us know on Twitter. Hashtag Skip vs. Sass. Who do you think won? What'd you think of it? And thanks to our friends at EA for giving us that video game. UFC 2 in sports now. More First Take after the break. Stay here. Oh, guess what, guys? I'm kidding.
Oh.
It's the end of the show.
Oh, it's the end of the show.
Yeah.
Oh.
So I'm thinking we had one more thing to go. I apologize.
I like EA, but did they pay me? Did they pay me?
Oh, come on.
I'm just saying.
It's not always about the taxes and the dollars.
Excuse me, why? They gonna make money. Why can't I make some money? I'm just saying.
With that performance, you might make some money.
Maybe.
All right.
Maybe.
Gentlemen, thank you so much for
Yep.
playing along with that. That was fun.
Yeah.
We'll see you guys tomorrow, same time, same place. Have an excellent day.
Without T.O.
Next question.
Drew, why didn't he read the full apology like he was supposed to? Your client would not be in this mess had he done that.
Next question.
Do you want to blame
what made the difference in all this? Let's talk to his ESPN. Are you saying that ESPN is responsible for this? Because
Next
who's he
question.
talking to?
Next question.
Johnny Manziel has hired Drew Rosenhaus, you just saw there, as an agent in hopes of getting a second chance in the NFL after being waived by the Browns after many off-the-field issues. Rosenhaus said on Monday there are many teams, no, I like correct myself, there are not many teams, there are teams interested in Manziel. Skip, what do you make of the Manziel signing with Rosenhaus?
Next question.
That was good.
Thank you. Molly, Stephen A., even though I guess Drew and Johnny were made for each other, destined for each other, I do not love this for the crumbling reputation of Johnny Manziel, because it's the wrong place and wrong time to be associated with an agent who, as we all know, has consistently represented the more controversial players in the National Football League. Terrell Owens, as we just saw, Chad Johnson, Plaxico, Warren Sapp, now Greg Hardy, Josh Gordon, LaShawn McCoy. I can go on and on. Players who have had some problems, and obviously Johnny has big problems, and I'm not sure that Drew is the right guy to fix those problems, because I fear that Drew would only enable those problems. I wish that Johnny had been able to wind up with an agent known for representing more respected players like a Eugene Parker or a Tom Condon, but I doubt either of those gentlemen would have taken Johnny as a client right now, because his ex-agent dumped Johnny because he just was sick of his antics and issues and problems, had enough, and just said, I can't remember the guy's name because I wasn't aware of him. He was off radar to start with, and now the mere thought of Johnny winding up with a higher regarded agent is probably out of the question. So I guess he was destined for Drew Rosenhaus.
It's interesting because I think a higher regarded agent should have been willing to take on Johnny, because that's why they're highly regarded.
Yeah.
Taking on challenges and eradicating issues and making them into the professional
They just don't want the headaches.
I understand that, but you know, some are willing to take some of them on. In the case of Johnny Manziel, here's what I don't like about Drew Rosenhaus being his agent. I respect Drew Rosenhaus in terms of his ability as an agent to go out there, get you opportunities, and get you your money. And I'm not casting any aspersions about him because I don't know. Drew Rosenhaus has always been nice to me. I don't know the man.
Ditto here.
I don't know the man. I know
him well enough.
Yes,
Yeah,
I don't. I've interviewed
he's
him.
fun to be around.
I've interviewed him a couple of times. I like his personality.
Yep.
You know, for me, the only problem I have with Drew Rosenhaus, with Johnny Manziel, I know of no situation in Drew Rosenhaus's history where he's resolved problems outside of getting you a contract.
I would agree.
And getting you a job.
Yep.
That he can do. I have no doubt.
Yep.
I just don't know if you got any kind of problems off the field, whatever they may be. I don't know that Drew Rosenhaus is the guy that helps you resolve it. That might be unfair to him, and if it is, I apologize, because I don't know. But I've never heard of him being that guy. There are plenty of agents that I know of who do a lot of things behind the scenes that are very, very effective, to the point where their reputation precedes them because their body of work, their reputation, and the respect that they garner from teams because of it elevates their stature within the agency business. That's not what I hear about Drew Rosenhaus. He's usually involved with people who can potentially be distractions. And usually when they're distractions, they don't stop being distractions. That's my issue with Drew Rosenhaus.
Okay, Drew is
for
all
Johnny
about,
Manziel.
Sure,
for Johnny Manziel. For Johnny
Drew's
Manziel.
about representing clients who will generate attention and publicity for Drew Rosenhaus. So Drew's two books that he's written have been A Shark Never Sleeps and then the infamous Next Question. Okay, so that's what Drew is known for, and I find ironic, if not amusing, that in his quotes to the Fort Worth Star-Telegram about Johnny Manziel, I'll just paraphrase, he's saying, I don't want to speak much about Johnny because so much of his life has been in the public, you know, in the spotlight, and yet he's speaking publicly about Johnny because he wants the attention.
My only thing with Drew Rosenhaus, I would love one day for him to explain to me why he had a press conference where all he said was next question. I don't know if he's ever given a reason as to why he would waste his and everybody else's time with that.
Well, who was the star of that press conference?
He was.
Thank you.
Yes.
First Take is brought to you by Cheerios and Firestone Complete Auto Care, celebrating 90 years of keeping cars running newer, longer.
NBA Wednesday, presented by State Farm, a great doubleheader here. We begin in the East, the Knicks versus the Bulls. That's at 8 Eastern. Then Clippers, Warriors, 10:30 Eastern for your nightcap. It's time, the moment you've been waiting for, courtesy of EA Sports and the new mixed martial arts video game UFC 2 in stores now. The big debut, Skip versus Stephen A. in the octagon. It's the first heavyweight matchup. The undefeated champs set to face off. Stephen A. getting his gloves ready. Skip all pumped up, warming up there, getting loose. Now, the stars are going to meet in the middle of the ring. Skip goes to tap gloves. Stephen A. Bro, cold shoulder. That was cold. Skip taking him down, but Stephen A. with the great flip move here, able to get out of it. Then Stephen A. goes for the arm bar, but Skip sneaks out to keep the match alive. They get back on their feet. Some vicious combination of punches here, but Skip comes right back. Oh, with the punch and the leg kick. Nice combo, Skip. This is way too much fun for me. Pretty even match, but good ground game, guys. And when you got on your feet, too, you landed some nice punches there.
It had my hairline right. It had my hairline about right, yeah.
You know, this is my pride talking. I'm going to have to take those EA artists to the gym with me because what happened to my biceps?
Oh,
I lost my pecs. I lost everything.
I thought you looked pretty good there.
Really? I didn't.
Great grappling skills.
I thought they skinnied me up.
It made me look better than I look. I will say that. It did.
Well, that's a good thing.
It did.
Yeah.
So one guy's into it, one's not?
Well, you know, I'm not.
That's cool.
I love watching MMA, but I'm more of a boxer.
No, you were good. I think
boxing for years.
You might have dissed him like that if you were fired up. I think that was my favorite part, the cold shoulder. Skip tries to be nice, but his hand out, you just diss him.
No, that's not me. I'm very classy. I'm very classy. I would always have touched gloves. I would have never disrespected him like that. No.
That was out of character?
No, that's out of character.
Oh, my God.
But they didn't talk to me before they did this. So
that was a nice reach you had, too. Nice right hand.
You would have touched gloves. I would agree.
That's right.
We want to know what you guys think at home. Let us know on Twitter. Hashtag Skip vs. Sass. Who do you think won? What'd you think of it? And thanks to our friends at EA for giving us that video game. UFC 2 in sports now. More First Take after the break. Stay here. Oh, guess what, guys? I'm kidding.
Oh.
It's the end of the show.
Oh, it's the end of the show.
Yeah. So I'm thinking we had one more thing to go. I apologize.
I like EA, but did they pay me? Did they pay me?
Oh, come on.
I'm just saying.
It's not always about the taxes and the dollars.
Excuse me, why? They don't make money. Why can't I make some money? I'm just saying.
With that performance, you might make some money.
Maybe.
All right.
Maybe.
Gentlemen, thank you so much for playing along with that. That was fun.
Yeah.
We'll see you guys tomorrow, same time, same place. Have an excellent day. Our Adam Schefter is reporting that former Redskins back Alfred Morris is signing with the Dallas Cowboys. Alfred's production has dropped steadily over the last 4 seasons, Skip. So what does this mean for the Cowboys?
Molly, Stephen A., it doesn't mean much. I do not love this for my Dallas Cowboys because, as you point out, each of the last 3 seasons, we have seen a running back whose yards are in decline. Over the last 4 seasons, Alfred Morris has the most carries in the National Football League, so he is being used up. I do not think the Washington Redskins will miss him, and I think he might help my Cowboys a little, but not a lot, because they are still all about Darren McFadden.
For me, I think it's a good move on his part. I do think that he has steadily declined. I can tell you that the folks in Washington won't miss him that much because they felt that he got 2 yards and then was easily tackled, really didn't break tackles. They had a problem with him. I don't blame entirely him. I think the environment was dysfunctional. I think the offensive line was questionable. I think on far too many occasions he was absorbed to excessive punishment that he didn't need to be absorbed, exposed to. And with the Cowboys, since their offensive line is widely recognized as one of the best. I thought it was very, very smart with him to stay within the division, to go to a rival like the Dallas Cowboys, and for the Cowboys to have a dual attack in McFadden and Alfred Morris, because I think he'll run more effectively, meaning per yards, yards per carry, while at the same time not taking nearly as much punishment, because I think that they have a considerably better offensive line.
Well, obviously, I would take 120 yards in 2 games this next season against the Washington Redskins with chip on shoulder. But here's my biggest fear. I fear that Alfred Morris, in the end, was mostly a product of Robert Griffin III's spread option attack, where Robert was such a threat with his legs, it made Alfred Morris more of a threat with his legs up the middle.
Okay. That may very well be the case, which means he'd have just as much of a problem because Tony Romo is not that dual threat in terms of scrambling. But again, the offensive line is better in Dallas than it is in Washington, and I think because of that, that's going to help him. And even if it doesn't help him that much, what he won't get is beat up by running the ball, but so much because McFadden is there.
Up next, Skip Bayless in the left corner, Stephen A. in the right. It'll make sense when we come back. This is going to be so good. Please stay here. I've been waiting for it all morning. Says Molly. You guys trust me.
Without T.O.
Next question.
Drew, why didn't he read the full apology like he was supposed to? Your client would not be in this mess had he done that.
Next question.
What made the difference in all this? Let's talk to his ESPN. Are you saying that ESPN is responsible for this?
Next question. Next question.
Johnny Manziel has hired Drew Rosenhaus, you just saw there, as an agent in hopes of getting a second chance in the NFL after being waived by the Browns after many off-the-field issues. Rosenhaus said on Monday there are many teams, I correct myself, there are not many teams, there are teams interested in Manziel. Skip, what do you make of the Manziel signing with Rosenhaus?
Next question.
That was good.
Thank you. Molly, Stephen A., even though I guess Drew and Johnny were made for each other, destined for each other, I do not love this for the crumbling reputation of Johnny Manziel, because it's the wrong place and wrong time to be associated with an agent who, as we all know, has consistently represented the more controversial players in the National Football League. Terrell Owens, as we just saw, Chad Johnson, Plaxico, Warren Sapp, now Greg Hardy, Josh Gordon, LaShawn McCoy. I can go on and on. Players who have had some problems, and obviously Johnny has big problems, and I'm not sure that Drew is the right guy to fix those problems, because I fear that Drew would only enable those problems. I wish that Johnny had been able to wind up with an agent known for representing more respected players like a Eugene Parker or a Tom Condon, but I doubt either of those gentlemen would have taken Johnny as a client right now, because his ex-agent dumped Johnny because he just was sick of his antics and issues and problems, had enough, and just said, I can't even remember the guy's name because I wasn't aware of him. He was off radar to start with, and now the mere thought of Johnny winding up with a higher regarded agent is probably out of the question. So I guess he was destined for Drew Rosenhaus.
It's interesting because I think a higher regarded agent should have been willing to take on Johnny, because that's why they're highly regarded. Taking on challenges and eradicating issues and making them into the professionals
they just
that
don't
they
want
should
the headaches.
I understand that, but some are willing to take some of them on. In the case of Johnny Manziel, here's what I don't like about Drew Rosenhaus being his agent. I respect Drew Rosenhaus in terms of his ability as an agent to go out there, get you opportunities, and get you your money. And I'm not casting any aspersions about him because I don't know. Drew Rosenhaus has always been nice to me. I don't know the man.
Ditto here.
I don't know the man. I know
him well enough.
Yes, I don't. I've interviewed
he's
him.
Fun to be around.
I've interviewed him a couple of times. I like his personality. You know, for me, the only problem I have with Drew Rosenhaus with Johnny Manziel, I know of no situation in Drew Rosenhaus's history where he's resolved problems outside of getting you a contract.
I would agree.
And getting you a job. That he can do. I have no doubt. I just don't know if you got any kind of problems off the field, whatever they may be. I don't know that Drew Rosenhaus is the guy that helps you resolve it. That might be unfair to him, and if it is, I apologize because I don't know. But I've never heard of him being that guy. There are plenty of agents that I know of who do a lot of things behind the scenes that are very, very effective to the point where their reputation precedes them because their body of work, their reputation, and the respect that they garner from teams because of it elevates their stature within the agency business. That's not what I hear about Drew Rosenhaus. He's usually involved with people who can potentially be distractions. And usually when they're distractions, they don't stop being distractions. That's my issue with Drew Rosenhaus.
Okay, Drew is
for
all
Johnny
about,
Manziel.
Sure,
for Johnny Manziel. For Johnny
Drew's
Manziel.
about representing clients who will generate attention and publicity for Drew Rosenhaus. So Drew's 2 books that he's written have been A Shark Never Sleeps and then the infamous Next Question. Okay, so that's what Drew is known for. And I find it ironic, if not amusing, that in his quotes to the Fort Worth Star-Telegram about Johnny Manziel, I'll just paraphrase, he's saying, I don't want to speak much about Johnny because so much of his life has been in the public, you know, in the spotlight, and yet he's speaking publicly about Johnny because he wants the attention.
My only thing with Drew Rosenhaus, I would love one day for him to explain to me why he had a press conference where all he said was next question. I don't know if he's ever given a reason as to why he would waste his and everybody else's time with that.
Well, who was the star of that press conference?
He was.
Thank you.
Yes, enough said. Drop the mic. All right, we know someone else's agent is working. Alfred Morris reportedly is going from D.C. to head to Dallas. What does this mean for Skip's Cowboys? A new workhorse back? Find out next.
I got your number. I got it down now. And give it back until